This is a podcast overview for week 12. We'll be covering chapter 7, cognition, thinking, intelligence, and language. So all three of those elements make up the area of cognition or cognitive psych in psychology as a subfield. Here is the to-do list for this week. Your objectives for the chapter, and you can click here for an overview of each one of these. Your lecture slides for chapter 7, and then your discussion revolves around not only chapter 7 but also this week's Hawk reading, which is 4.2, Just How Are You Intelligent? So this reading has to do with intelligence testing, which is part of what the chapter covers. So you're going to be integrating both the reading and the chapter into your discussion response this week. So the first question for the discussion is, what is meant by the theory of multiple intelligences? So you're going to be looking at the work of Gardner, who was really interested in unique individuals, gifted individuals, people whose abilities weren't readily transferable by the common IQ tests of the time. He was interested in people who seemed to be intelligent in specific areas, per se. So you can talk a little bit about what he meant by multiple intelligences, and then what kinds of individuals did Gardner study as his basis for defining intelligence. So who did he pick out to focus on and study, and why did he choose those individuals? And then you're going to describe the 8 categories of intelligence according to Gardner. And I'd like you to give an example of someone famous who fits each of those categories. I want you to come up with your own. Don't use the ones that are already mentioned in the text or the reading, and try not to mimic what other people are saying in the discussion. So here's where it's really important that each week you should be writing your answers to this discussion without looking at what other people are writing. The problem with looking at what other people are writing and then going to do yours is it tends to sound repetitive and very similar. And so what ends up happening is I see lots of people answering in the same way to questions where there should be a lot of variety. Some questions will have the same answers, like number 2 and number 1. But on a question like this, I would expect some variation. I would expect to see your own input here. So go ahead and think of 8 people who you feel fit his categories of intelligence. And then lastly, what's one important criticism of Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence? So you'll notice at the end of the Hawk reading, there's always the criticisms section, and then also the textbook. Chapter 7 talks a little bit about his theory and why did people criticize it? What did they have to say about it? And how do you feel about the criticism? Does it jive with our current understanding of how we assess intelligence overall? So you'll need to understand a little bit of backstory here. You'll need to understand how intelligence is measured. How do we assess it today? How do we know if somebody is smart? What is smart? What dictates smartness or intelligence? And how do we know that? So that is all in your textbook as well as in the article for this week. So make sure that you are integrating both those sources into your responses this week. And then you have a quiz on chapter 7. Just as usual, multiple choice questions. And I will be putting in a couple videos. I haven't quite yet. So you can expect to see those no later than Monday. I'm going to throw in a couple videos on intelligence and possibly one on language for you. So be on the lookout for those. And of course, you want to make sure that you've watched the videos before you go ahead and attack the discussion question for the week. You want to make sure you've done the reading and watched any of those videos. And then please just let me know as you're working through the material if you have any questions this week.